All right, guys. Because we don't have any ammo really to shoot, or not very much, I've lately been kind of taking care of kit. I've been going through what kit looks like for me, trying to figure out what works best for me. Now, I built a belt out over the course of about 3, 4 years, kind of fine-tuned that. Started off with something a little bit thicker, started off with a thicker battle belt configuration. I was using the HSGI. I decided after a while it was too much like a battle girdle, so I wanted to get away from that. So I ended up going to a Trex configuration. The Trex Orion has served me well. There is some trade-offs that you get when you go to this sort of material. The first thing that comes to mind is what I liked about the HSGI was the padding on the inside was definitely more of a sticky, spongy feel, so it really stuck to the body. But it also added some weight. It also added just more material that you had to deal with. So what the Trex does is kind of have a compromise between those two, where you're getting that thin, you're still having that sticky sort of substance, but it is not quite as sticky and spongy as the HSGI. But anyways, I figured we'd go through my belt configuration real quick. So starting off, I do 2 pistol mags. Because I have more surface area, because I'm a bigger guy, there has to be a benefit to having that wide body. I've decided to go ahead and throw 2 rifle mags on there. I'm currently using the Crye little retention mag holsters. You can pick them up on Trex, but they are great mag holsters. For the longest time, I also ran the HSGIs. The biggest issue I ran up on was I have an HSGI for my Leatherman. These little nubs right here. If you decide to run HSGI, I would recommend just taking some sandpaper and sanding down these corners. It's not a big deal, but especially when you're maneuvering around vehicles or bending over, I would get those. They would stab into me every so often, specifically the ones that are facing my body. So what I eventually did for my Leatherman was sand those down, but for rifle mags and pistol mags, I went ahead and switched over to the Crye. These have been great for me. I have probably run these for about 2 years, maybe 3, and they've held up great. Moving on, dump pouch. I'm currently running the Trex dump pouch. I was running the Blue Force gear, the little micro dump pouch before. That dump pouch was great for having something small in the belt that you could kind of conceal and have it much smaller and when you weren't using it. But once you had to use it, trying to fish your hand back into there and actually drop items into that dump pouch started becoming an issue. So that's when I switched over to the Trex. My only real complaint about the Trex has been that on the inside you have this Velcro that is the hook side out. So if you have like softer material, if you're wearing some sort of like a light shirt that has that's specifically meant for moisture wicking and stuff, sometimes I've seen that this will start tearing up that shirt as it's close to your body for a prolonged period of time. So that's my only complaint in regards to the Trex. Moving on is my medical. My medical is currently one of the Blue Force Gear medical kits, a little IFAK. This is great for just a small, compact IFAK setup. My biggest complaint is because it is so tight and snug and you're having to put everything in there in kind of its right place, it's sort of like having a little claymore with you. If you ever get into an instance when you have to actually use your IFAK, it's great, you pull all this stuff out and it will basically have a little explosion of medical equipment. The issue then is you don't have it really necessarily organized. It is just a little holder for med kit, so it just turns into a nice little explosion of med pack stuff. Moving over, of course, have a Sharpie on here. Using that little Molle weave is great for retaining that. Tourniquet. I'm just running I believe this is a Blue Force Gear tourniquet holder, either that or a North American Rescue. Also running a North American Rescue tourniquet in there. I probably need to go ahead and switch out that tourniquet because it's been exposed to the elements enough that some of that plastic is probably a little more brittle than it should be. I've considered taking this off and putting it underneath my IFAC, but for the time being I've just gotten lazy and this is where it's living. Moving on over, a Leatherman. I use the Leatherman more often than I care to admit. So having a Leatherman of some sort on your belt has been great. Something as simple as cutting things open and making small adjustments with the screwdriver, it is very handy to have. Moving over to holster, I have my Glock 17, I have my little Mantis I'm testing out, but I have a Trex Ragnarok in a Safariland drop leg, sort of mid-length holster, using this QLS system. The QLS system, if you haven't already jumped onto that, is very handy, especially when all of your buddies are running the same holster. You can switch out this QLS really quickly and make it so you're not having to switch out all your belts or weave new holsters onto your belt after it's set up. Using the Trex arms, leg strap, thigh strap, getting a pack timer on here. If you get this situated correctly in terms of your buckle and it going around your leg, it will be very snug with your shot timer on there, which is exactly how I like it. I've adjusted it a little bit, pulled a little bit more towards the inner of the thigh, and then also kind of pulled it back to where I liked it. So that's going to vary depending on how big your legs are, your body type, all that stuff. So play with that and it will help you figure out exactly how you like it situated. So that is my current belt setup. I probably had the most experience with that and most time with it. I shoot fairly often and it's held up pretty well. I haven't gone easy on it at all, so there are stuff that's showing some wear now. But for the most part, that has held up fine with all that equipment. It has changed, like I said, over the years, going from a wider set battle belt to a little more thinner setup, but that has worked out great. There are a lot of guys that are running the inner belts with an outer belt that goes over top of it. At least for me, I like the flexibility of pretty much year-round, regardless if I'm wearing rain gear or if I'm wearing sweatshirts or t-shirts or whatever. I can pretty much just throw that thing on me. It also has been fantastic for dry firing because it makes it so if I'm getting home from the gym and I go, hey, you know what, I'm trying to get some reps in, I'm not having to worry about, oh, let me go get some pants that have a belt loop, or I need to make sure I'm wearing something specific, or I need to make sure that my clothes can accommodate my belt. That pretty much just throws on pretty much anything I'm wearing. I'm sure at certain points during the winter where we're layering up, it doesn't work anymore, but for the most part, for here in Tennessee, that works great. Okay, so moving on. We're gonna move straight into plate carrier. The plate carrier for me has been kind of a slow road getting to where I am. I'm trying to not add too much stuff to my kit unless I need it, so that can help shape what my plate carrier is going to be. That being said, I'm not getting in firefights, so trying to figure out how I want my plate carrier configured is a little bit alien to me, so I'm having to figure it out. I decided to go with the Crye JPC 2. So far I've been pretty impressed by the Crye JPC 2. For the most part, it has held up very, very well. I've had it in a lot of, rain, cold, that sort of stuff, and I've been fairly hard on it, and it has held up well. There is some vents on the back of it that will allow some ventilation to come through, but one way or another, you're still wearing some weight on your chest, so you're gonna feel it. I did start off with AR 500 steel armor. If I can give you any advice, it's this. The AR 500, I was, like a lot of people, ended up picking that up mainly because it was cost effective and it seemed to be doing the job. After going from steel armor to, I'm currently running HESCO 3810s, it's a pretty substantial boost in terms of just comfortability. Usually whenever I would throw the AR 500s in, the timer would typically start, and I only had so much time before I needed to go ahead and take that off. I was just fatiguing a lot quicker. Once I switched over to 3810s, I've noticed that I can wear this pretty much all day and not run into any problems. So if there is a little piece of advice I can give you is go ahead, save your money, go ahead and get a nice pair of ceramic plates. It will definitely keep you from wasting some of your money further down the road. So anyways, on the plate carrier itself. On the front of the plate carrier, I'm running a Blue Force Gear mag holster. These mag holsters are nice because they have that kind of elastic material. So for me, the thinking was that as I pulled out mags and as I used them and dumped those mags, I was able to make this flatter and more slick, having just kind of a lower profile plate carrier and kind of getting rid of the things that I don't necessarily need as I use them. So that has worked fine so far. One of the drawbacks to that has been that trying to reholster a mag is kind of a two-hand job. You can't, with one hand, you can't get one of these mags back into there. So it's kind of a downside, but for my purposes, it seemed like the route to go. So for the medical, I decided to use the Ferro Concepts dangler. I'm also running a soft T tourniquet on the bottom. In terms of med kit, I am using a North American Rescue IFAC med kit that will fit perfectly inside the dangler. Moving on to the cummerbund, I am running comms. Now comms is pretty new to me, like really new to me. Trying to figure out what to use is not so much that there aren't a lot of resources, it's just that there are so many resources that it's hard to kind of figure out what I should and shouldn't use. So starting off, I'm doing what most people are doing, and I am running a Baofeng, I think it's a 5R. In terms of range, I'm getting about 1.5 to 2 miles out of these radios. At least at this point, when I don't have a ton of people I'm talking to, this seems like a satisfactory solution. I have also been running a Disco 32 push-to-talk. I have routed that wire up through my Crye and have this nice tactile push-to-talk button here. Those will plug into my Contact 3s that are on my helmet. Usually my normal ear pro, I'm not running any sort of comms. Those are specifically set up for when I'm LARPing hard and using my night vision and Team Windy helmet setup, which we can go over in another video. I'm also running a antenna, I believe it's cattail antennas, that will help me route that wire out of the way. And it's, you'll notice it's going along the cummerbund and then up into the back of the plate carrier. I'm currently running the back of my plate carrier, slick, and I am running a Haley flat pack on the back that we'll get to in a minute. But the antenna routes in between the molly and makes it so we have a pretty nice antenna across the entire back without having it in the way. I was running a soft or whip antenna that was coming up directly off of the radio, but especially in my press out with a pistol, I noticed that it was getting in the way. When I press out with both arms, coming out, that antenna was bending in the way and getting in my face, and I didn't like that. So, cattail antennas so far looks really good. So, moving on. This is the Haley flat pack. I decided to use this mainly because I could put it up over my plate carrier and not necessarily have to depend on someone to get into any of the material that I was wanting to access in the bag. What's nice about the flat pack is it will start very flat, but with some releasing some of the zippers, you can expand that pack. And at one point I was carrying a bunch of my mags for range days, and I was usually putting about 20 to 21 AR mags in here. So there's a fair amount of capacity for what it is. I also have my hydration system in here. That has worked fine. I probably going to work on some ways to try to route this hose a little bit better, so it's not quite as far down my plate carrier when I'm using it. But the idea with the flat pack was that I could take this off if I was getting into a vehicle, or if I didn't have someone with me, I could take that pack off and be able to access whatever I am carrying inside of it. But yeah, that pretty well sums up my kit as it currently stands. None of this is necessarily the right answer. It is just simply where I am currently, and maybe some explanation for why I'm running it how I am. Obviously for body size and what you're wanting to do with it, that setup's going to change. But currently this is what I'm doing. But yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to leave a comment or shoot me a message, and I will be happy to try to help you out however I can. Y'all have a good one.